Welcome to the Ward D debate. Jersey City's Ward D. I'm Pat O'Melia. I'll be your moderator. Many of you know me from the City Show and the Hudson Media Group here. And today we have 3 candidates for Ward D. Unfortunately, one of them aren't here. So we will roll away that podium and we'll concentrate on the 2 that are here. Now, let me try to get this last name right. We got Danielle Freire.
Freire.
Freire. Oh, we'll call you Danielle from here on in. And Councilman from Ward D, Yousef.
Saleh.
Welcome to the studio. Good to see you. Haven't been up here in a while.
Thank you.
Now, let me give you the rules and regulations of the debate, and then you will have your opening statement. All candidates are entitled to a 2-minute opening and closing remarks. Opening statement and closing remarks. Hopefully we manage to do that because these debates get rolling and you kind of forget things. All candidates will have 2 minutes to answer the moderator's questions. I have the option to allow you guys to go longer. Candidates who do not follow the moderator's instructions will get the Trump treatment. Your microphone will be shut off and the camera will be turned away. Each candidate will get 1 minute to rebuttal. The moderator may allow the rebuttal to exceed 1 minute. I like rebuttals. All candidates must use proper language. It's a family debate. There will be 2 8-minute intermissions. All candidates will be limited to 1 guest in the studio. We didn't need to tell the people in the audience, but it's on the list. And all candidates may use any of the footage from the debate in your campaigns. Danielle, since you're the newbie in this group, you can open up with your opening statement.
Thank you, Pat. Hi, my name is Danielle Freire. My pronouns are she and her. To be inclusive for those who are blind or with low vision, let me describe myself. I have big curly hair in a deep dark red color. I'm wearing golden earrings. I'm wearing a black jumpsuit with white paint strokes all across. I'm wearing a black blazer and red lipstick. I'm standing behind a podium against a blue backdrop. I am the independent candidate for Ward D for the Heights. On October 23rd, we have the opportunity to vote early for the first time. We can have a real voice at the decision-making table. A representative who is answering to our neighbors, not developers. We are living in a neighborhood where we have $2 million properties and we are still fighting to have clean water. We still have to fight to have homes that are more affordable for everyone. This is why I'm running, because we shouldn't be happy with keeping our heads just above water. I'm here to fight for a community that deserves to thrive. Buenas noches, soy Daniela Freire, la candidata independiente para concejal del Distrito D para Jersey City Heights. Por primera vez, este 23 de octubre tenemos 10 días para votar. Podemos votar por una representante que luche por nuestros vecinos, una representante que no se vende. Vivimos en un vecindario con casas de $2 millones y todavía tenemos que pelear por tener agua limpia. Por eso soy candidata para concejal, porque no están dejando las migajas. Todos merecemos más en nuestra ciudad. Thank you.
Very good. Yousef, opening statement.
Thank you, Pat. Thank you, Danielle. And thank you to all the viewers at home and all the residents of the Heights. My name is Councilman Yousef J. Saleh. It has been my solemn honor and duty over the last 17 months to be your councilman. And we have, in the last 17 months, done incredible things, and we have overcome large obstacles to get to this point. When I got appointed back in May 2020, we were still going through this pandemic, and we still are. Since then, we've developed the vaccine, and we have also put out a lot of testing sites throughout the city, and the response of the city has been second to none when it comes to the coronavirus pandemic. We've given out over 700 businesses $20,000 grants. We've given out $7 million to residents around Jersey City who are in need of rental assistance. Furthermore, we've also improved the streetscape. We've invested $5 million into the Central Avenue streetscape. This is substantive, tangible results that you can see, touch, and feel. We've repaved 6.3 miles of road. in the Heights alone, more than any other ward. We've installed 12 speed bumps. We have 12 more on the way. We have a new Hispanic library coming to the Heights. We have a new senior center coming to the Heights. We have a new public safety building with a community room coming in the Heights. We have a parking deck finally coming to the Heights. We've made so much progress, and the leadership that we have in Jersey City is second to none. With the coronavirus pandemic, when it comes to disseminating the vaccines, we had over 1,000 people get vaccinated in the Heights in a single day. And that was off an Instagram post that I put. Okay, so we are making sure that we are giving the residents world-class resources. We know that there's a lot to do, and I look forward to having that dialogue as a community as to what our priorities are and keeping the Heights moving forward.
Thank you. Yousef, I have 25 questions on my desk, and they all say parking.
Yes.
It's the Heights. And I'm not forgetting the slope. Everybody forgets the slope. Slope's got big parking issues also. Yousef, we'll start with you.
Yes.
You are the incumbent. What are you going to do in the Heights to alleviate the parking problem? You know, we're riding around the blocks at night. We're on citizen patrol looking for a spot. You know, I'm waiting to hear the lottery guy say, yes, you won. Here's a spot for you. What are you going to do? You've only been a councilman for a short time, but we're talking 4 years this time. Tell me how we're going to park in the Heights.
So, Pat, I'm glad you asked me that question because as a child, I used to circle the block with my parents over and over, 30, 40 minutes. That's the minimum. And we would eventually, it could reach up to an hour, 20 minutes just trying to find a parking. So my plan for parking in the Heights, first and foremost, to build the parking deck. We have about 300 people that come in from outside of the Heights to work on Central Avenue and within that area. So we want to house all those 300 workers, employees within the parking deck during the daytime and open it up during the nighttime for all the residents. So that would be 400 available spots. We've done a parking study. So we've looked at areas that you could possibly change to either angled parking. We're going to look into the parking lines. We want to make sure that if we do put the parking lines, that it doesn't reduce the amount of parking on that particular block, because you have to estimate the maximum width for a car if you're going to put those lines in. Furthermore, when it comes to the master plan, we don't want any automatic curb cuts. So part of the issue that we're having in the Heights is a lot of two-family homes that are being built have an automatic curb cut if there's a demolition. Is that time?
No, that's a question. There it is, the curb cuts. But continue.
Okay,
That question's coming.
We're going to eliminate those automatic curb cuts as well, and we're going to continue to work with the residents to find other parking solutions. Like, let's say you have a fire hydrant in front of your house. No one else can park there, but you're able to. You have a little well for your car, but you have a, you could park in the front of your house if that's possible. We're going to look into that. So you wouldn't be taking away a spot from the neighborhood. Anything that doesn't take away a spot from the neighborhood, we're going to look into putting that within the parking.
What are you talking, raising the fire hydrant? That was a Glenn D. Cunningham idea there, raising the fire hydrant.
I met a woman whose husband was very ill, and she had a fire hydrant in front of her house, and he has cancer, and it takes time for him to go in the car, and obviously it's very difficult for her to keep moving the car. And the fire hydrant wasn't anyway in the area where she could have parked in front of her house. It was absolutely ridiculous that she couldn't, have a parking spot there. It wouldn't take away a spot from the neighborhood, and it would help this resident of the Heights.
All right. Danielle, impress me. What are you going to do about parking in the Heights?
Thank you, Pat. So one thing we need to ask ourselves is, why are we struggling with parking? When it comes to decisions made in the Heights, we need to think about our long-term future. That means thinking about being more environmentally sustainable. We're living in a climate crisis. Why are we focused on parking units instead of affordable units for people who need to be housed? We need to have more reliable mass transit options. We need to make sure our infrastructure is stronger so that we can have people going from point A to point B at a quicker time, and then it could be one less parking spot that people need to fight for. So for me, I think about the bigger picture when it comes to the Heights. We need to think about our future. I remember I took the 119 for a whole bunch of years when I used to commute to Port Authority. It was a mess. If anyone knows the 119 on Central Avenue, we were crowded like sardines, and we would be lucky if we even got on the bus. So what we need to do is advocate on a state level to have the quality and the higher number of buses that we need. That's how we can look forward to a Heights that works for all of us.
All right. I like the long-range planning, but I also like the park tonight. You were talking about the lines in the street.
Yep.
Are you going to go back and correct the lines on Central Avenue? There are some parking spots because we didn't put the meters back in the proper places when the city redid the sidewalk, that you got like 8-foot parking. I am an excellent parallel parker. I'm parking to go to the bank on Central. So what the hell is wrong with this spot? And I'm having a problem getting my car in there. So I finally got out when I got the car in there. I said, this spot is too short. And I just seen how the meters was. We didn't put these back right. Is that what you're going to correct that, by the way?
We have not finished the Central Avenue Streetscape project, so all of those imperfections, they're on the punch list to be redone or to be fixed.
Yeah, you need to start punching a little quicker so we can park. I use this in the Ward C. It's a school budget. I know you can't do a lot as a council person. You're one of 9, you're not the mayor. But we have a school budget that's at $814 million. That school budget in the last 18 months raised the taxes on the property owners here in the Heights by $2,000. Those property owners haven't been able to move those increases along because we have a rent increase freeze right now in Jersey City that eventually will elapse, and then there's going to be an issue with people seeing their rents jump up. Jersey City costs about $27,000 per student to educate. In Toms River, an hour from here, it's $16,000 to educate a student. And then, like I said in the other debate, they're going to college, they're becoming doctors and lawyers, there are good schools down there too. What will you do to try to lessen the impact on the school taxes? The administration doing all they can to hold taxes, and the school board they're killing us. Danielle?
Sure. Well, Pat, with all due respect, we are not Toms River. We are Jersey City, and we need to invest in our children. I fully believe in a fully funded budget. It's a matter of prevention. When we teach a child, we can have an upstanding citizen. It leads to less crimes. It leads to less homelessness if we consider the quality social services that we need to invest in. It's a matter of prioritizing the social services and the education that we need to make our city great.
It's going to be very expensive. You can't have affordable housing without an affordable city. Yousef, what are you going to do to help the people in the Heights and in Jersey City in general with these school taxes?
So the city has implemented shared services with the Jersey City Board of Ed, and it requires a lot of communication on the part of the city and the Board of Ed. And I have a good relationship with everyone on the Board of Ed and everyone on the City Council. And we have this year taken the unprecedented step of actually sitting down and talking to each other and trying to figure out these issues. So the shared services program that we have, we pick up their trash, we take down the trailers using our city equipment if those trailers need to be removed, like behind PS 27, and that saved them $5 million. In addition, we need to institute the recreational cannabis tax, which has been going through the city council. So after the state passed legalization for cannabis, we wanted to tax it on the city level, and those funds would go at least 50%. This is what I'm advocating for. At least 50% would go to the schools. In addition, after this pandemic is over, and maybe next year, I'd like to introduce a vacancy tax. So if you leave your storefront vacant for way too long, then you get dinged with a tax. And you see a lot of empty storefronts on Central Avenue. Some people are waiting for the neighborhood to come up. That's wrong. And so we want to make sure that we are incentivizing and disincentivizing certain behaviors. Furthermore, if you look at the state budget, we've been cut over $200 million, okay, year after year after year. When the Federal CARES Act funding came to Jersey City, essentially the stipulation for that funding was that we would not get any state aid cuts. And that was what the federal government said to the state. So if they don't reinstitute those funds to our schools, we need to take it to the federal government, to the Federal Education Commission, okay, and to make sure that we get our funding back as a city. And I just want to talk about the number of districts in New Jersey. There's 590 school districts, and we all compete for funding. I think we should go to a county-based system, okay? Right now, everything is balkanized, and actually, if you look at the research, there's educational apartheid within New Jersey, so we need to make sure that every student has access to the schools within their county, that we're sharing resources, sharing funding. Thank you, Pat.
Well, I agree. We got more school districts than municipalities. Neither one of you mentioned looking into the finances of the Board of Education. Nobody's going to do a forensic accounting. Are we throwing good money after bad money? Because there is a correlation between the cost of educating a student in Jersey City as opposed to Tom's River. Tom's River is very similar to Jersey City. We need to know how those taxpayer dollars are being spent.
So we do
Yeah, another 5 minutes, 40 seconds before the first intermission. Affordable housing. Danielle, you were touching on this before. We can't have affordable housing unless the city's affordable. And we just had a situation on Central Avenue by 360. The gentleman who owns Kennedy Department Store wants to develop that site. There's two parcels of property. I think he wants to put a 6 or 7 story building on. And people were asking him about the affordable component to it. And he said there isn't one. Why should private sector be involved in creating affordable housing? Danielle?
Well, I believe the city needs to be involved in enforcing affordable housing through a strong inclusionary housing ordinance, which pretty much means when a developer comes and builds a project, that they are required to build a portion, at least 20%, which is what I would advocate for, excuse me, at least 20% of affordable units within a project. That building development that you're talking about, it's right across the street from where I live. I was at that meeting a couple weeks ago. My representative was not there. When we asked, what are you going to do in regards to having more affordable units? He said, it is not required. So developers don't really care to provide more affordable units. That's where the city needs to step in. And so for me, I think it's very important. It's part of our value as a city to make sure that families from different incomes can afford to live here.
Do you feel the guy who owns Kennedy Department Store is a developer? He's somebody that worked his life to come up with enough money to buy those properties and build. Not
Right.
his job to create, in my opinion, not his job to create affordable housing.
Absolutely.
Unless he's
That's why
asking
the
for
city needs to be
money
right.
from the city or abatements. If not, then he's allowed to build. Yousef, what's your opinion on that?
So much has been said about my lack of attendance at that meeting, but part of the responsibility of being a council person is that if the development goes to appeal, I would have to recuse myself from voting on that. If it goes to appeal before the city council, I would not be able to vote on that. So that is why I have refrained from making any public commentary towards this particular development. As for affordable housing in Jersey City Heights, we have a lot of two-family homes and a lot of developers build as of right. I agree that the city should make sure that we have a strong inclusionary zoning ordinance. And when I was on the committee for the inclusionary zoning committee, I advocated for the strongest possible inclusionary zoning ordinance. As you know, we are part of a council, okay? So I am one of 8 other council members, and we all have to compromise, okay? But I still advocated for the strongest possible ordinance that there was. And when it comes to the development in the Heights, there are very few developments that would have actually looped in that would have triggered the inclusionary zoning ordinance. What's happening right now, a lot of two-family homes are getting demolished, and you have a lot of $1 million, $1.5 million homes replacing them, and they're doing that as of right, okay? I think that we need to change the master plan to allow for other types of development within the zone. So the 25 by 100 foot lot, you should be allowed to build like a 1-bedroom studio or maybe 2 bedrooms instead of just a 2-family home. And that's what's been happening in the Heights. That's what has made it so unaffordable. And we are the least densest ward out of all the wards in Jersey City. We have the least population out of all of Jersey City within Ward D Heights. So we haven't built up. The problem is that we need to change our master plan. We do need a strong inclusionary zoning ordinance. And that is where I stand on this issue.
All right. Before we go, do you want to rebut him?
Yes,
Okay.
regarding the inclusionary housing ordinance, you say that we need to have a strong one. You didn't vote. You voted no against the one that was proposed a couple of weeks ago. So where is our leadership when it comes to the Heights? We can't have a real leader if it's a puppet to the mayor and if it's someone that is just singing the song of an administration. I'm tired of hearing what we need to do. What has been done? Nothing has been done so far to support the families that have been here so long. There's so many working families that are getting pushed out. They're getting pushed out of our communities in the Heights, and they need to be supported. That is where our value is. It's in the people. It's not regarding property values, it's in our people. And we need a representative that's going to fight for us.
I know you want to rebut it. Go ahead. You can take us into the intermission. Go ahead, Yousef.
I'm not engaging in any, last minute political theatrics. If you actually sat on the council meeting and the committee meetings, and if you actually had sat in a council meeting before you started running for office, you would have seen that I did advocate for it. And that resolution that was proposed was written without me sitting at the table. So I would be behooved if I was a council person that wasn't sitting at that table discussing the future of the residents of the Heights, and someone was deciding that future for me and for the residents. That's why I didn't vote for it. And I told them, if you don't give me a seat at the table, why should I support it? So Fair Share Housing had a meeting with a few council members. And until I have that meeting, I'm not gonna vote for some last minute political theatrics, okay?
All right, we're going to break for intermission. You're watching the Ward D debate. We'll be back in 8 minutes.
Thank you.
Stevens Jersey City Ford, located right off of NJ 440 North. Across the Hudson Mall is your one-stop for all your automotive needs. Check out Ford's latest models like the 2020 Ford Fusion with its stylish looks and hybrid options, or the unparalleled high-performance 2020 Ford Mustang. The 2020 Ford F-150 Raptor is ready for those rugged off-road terrains with trail control. Need a mid-sized truck for your towing and hauling? The 2020 Ford Ranger will deliver. The 2020 Ford Escape is a luxury SUV that was made for comfort and adventure on the go. Returning is Ford's legendary Bronco, which takes you back to the true meaning of off-roading. They are now available for pre-order in our showroom or on our website. Let us help you find your next vehicle. Stevens Jersey City Ford, 201-432-7272.
Ford made their first all-electric SUV a Mustang. Rapid acceleration, reactive handling, 300-mile range. You control how it feels and how it sounds. It knows you. It dials into your preferred settings. It has an array of driver assist technology. Cameras and sensors enhance your awareness and provide you with additional control. But it's more than cutting-edge technology. It's the spirit of it. It's a Mustang.
Introducing the all-new Ford Maverick. A truck for people who do stuff. and people who make stuff. People like Gabrielle Union,
I make this look good, don't I?
who haul whatever they want to wherever they want. Like wood to build things made of wood with, and friends to get weird with. It's for long trips that the standard hybrid engine with a targeted EPA estimated city fuel economy rating of 40 miles per gallon helps with. That an 8-inch touchscreen connects with. And any trip that this interior makes more comfortable. But we'll let Gabrielle tell you all about it.
Or I could just tell them it's a Ford truck that starts at less than $20,000 MSRP.
Yep, that works too. The all-new Ford Maverick, built to defy expectations. Truck isn't just a brand new truck when it's tough enough to have best-in-class available payload and smart enough to know that a cab can also be an office. A truck equipped with best-in-class available towing that asks, why can't all that power more than just this truck? No, your brand new truck isn't just a brand new truck when it's the all-new F-150. Tough this smart can only be called F-150.
We're back. Jersey City Ward D debate. I'm Pat O'Melia, and our candidates, we have Danielle and Councilman Yousef with us. Got a little spirited in the first half when we got into affordable housing, so I'm going to keep the spirited conversation going. I'm going to, Yousef, I'll start with you. You mentioned this before with the curb cuts. The cookie cutter houses, they're knocking down the traditional two-family Heights home and they're building two-family, but really three families with the illegal bonus apartment in there. How do we kind of curb that in? How do we stop them from cutting the curb, first of all? And how do we kind of curb that back, that they're not knocking down all the houses? They're changing the entire landscape of the neighborhoods in the Heights. Yousef.
Thank you for asking that question. It's a very important question because we want to preserve the integrity and the culture and the diversity of our community. And in order to stop the curb cuts, we need to change our master plan, which we are in the process of doing currently. There's going to be a meeting at City Hall so that we could review some of these changes. And we want to eliminate automatic curb cuts. That's going to be no more. Furthermore, the Historic Preservation Administration it's a subset of City Hall. Essentially, when you go and you want to demolish a home, you would have to get an approval from them. So we've been working alongside that agency to make sure that homes in the Heights are being preserved. So you're not tearing down that beautiful Victorian home. You're not tearing down homes that have been here for 100 years, because that's happened, and we need to put a stop to it. And since I've been councilman, we have made sure that we have had the strictest possible means of doing so. So it has to be within the departments of the city that we work towards this goal, and we also have to have changes within our laws.
Well, you better move on that because this neighborhood, this is happening as we speak. Now, my house is 167 years old. I'd like to have a driveway, but we have a moratorium on carports. And it's not fair that I can't have a driveway. Somebody knocks down a house, they can have a driveway. Danielle, what's your opinion on that?
Sure. So we need to make it easier for homeowners that have been here for decades to preserve their home. I don't know if y'all have experienced trying to get a permit from the city, but it is very, very difficult. As an independent voice, we need to make the process easier. This is one way that they're pushing families out. They make the process so complicated that families are stuck trying to reserve their homes and preserve everything that's around them that's changing, and all they want to do is modify their homes, and they can't do it. So I don't really believe that anything is happening to help families, especially longtime families, preserve the beautification of their homes. And we need an independent voice to make sure that we're advocating for them and making sure that we're holding whatever departments accountable so that they can get their jobs done.
Danielle, what permit are you talking about?
Permits to renovate homes. So the front of their homes, the families who have been here for 40 years, for example, they're seeing everything around them change. They're seeing buildings demolished around them, and all they want to do is modify the front of their homes.
And they're having a problem getting a permit?
There's a lot of people having problems getting permits passed.
I'll ask Ray Myers about that in the morning. If you just want to renovate, you shouldn't have a problem getting a permit.
You're absolutely right. We shouldn't have a problem.
All right, Danielle, come here. Illegal driveways in the Heights. And boy, do we got a lot of them. But I don't knock those people for putting in illegal driveways because the cookie cutters, they're getting driveways. What do you do about the illegal ones?
Like I said, I think we need to focus on the long-term vision of the Heights and making sure that we are focused on, preserving the homes in our communities. Illegal parkings, yes, that is not okay, but we need to just make sure that we're advocating and having a community that makes sense for us.
What about illegal apartments, Yousef? A lot of them in the Heights, too.
There's a lot of them in the Heights. There's a lot of them everywhere. If you look in Queens, if you look...
We're in Ward D, that's what
I know, I'm just saying, let me finish my sentence, please. If you look after Hurricane Ida that we just had, there are a lot of people in that city that passed away because a lot of immigrants, a lot of first generation, individuals utilize those. And we need to make sure that the city is able to build that affordable housing so that people don't have to live in their basements. There's a lot of unscrupulous landlords that do this. So we need to crack down on those landlords that know that they aren't abiding by the law. Furthermore, when it comes to building that affordable housing, we can't just rely on developers to build it for us. The city should take the onus. There's plenty of technology available. I've had this conversation with the Jersey City Redevelopment Authority. We need to think outside the box. We need to start using 3D printers, okay? Because right now the way construction's done is very inefficient. I've also looked at startups like Boxable. So you have a house that costs $50,000, you just drive it into a lot, and boom, it's ready to go. So that's we want to take all of the abandoned properties in the Heights and use the powers of eminent domain and pay these landlords, you know, whatever the fair share is, and utilize that towards affordable housing. And that's my plan.
No, it's a smaller bayfront plan where the city got involved with the development and we dedicated so much. Yeah, if there's vacant property, let the city build a 2, 3 family, 4 family on there.
Absolutely.
As I mentioned before with the school board, with their tax increases, and there's another one coming next year, I'm sure. Landlords haven't been able to pass on those tax increases to the tenants because Jersey City enacted a rent freeze. What are we gonna do when that rent freeze expires? Because right now you're looking at $2,000 in the last 18 months that landlords haven't been able to pass along. What do we do for those tenants who are definitely going to get a rent increase when the freeze expires? Danielle?
Sure. I definitely like to focus on the rental assistance, the bust that happened where we had money available and we denied people help. So let's focus on the fact that we have a pandemic going on. We have a lot of renters that are needing support, and our city could not support them. In fact, they're denying 800 people help. That's 800 people that aren't getting the services they need because of a pandemic that is out of our control. So another thing that we need to mention is that there's a lot of waste in our budget. And we need to make sure that we're looking at our budget so that we can support families and support our tenants and landlords so that we can have a great community to thrive.
Okay. Yousef?
Well,
I seen you wanted to jump, so go ahead.
yeah, well, so we've been doing that. We gave $7 million last year, okay, to the tenants. And this year, we actually did something, you know, that was exclusive to owner-occupied 1 to 2 family homes, okay? It was owner-occupied 2 family homes. Why did we make it so that only the owner-occupied homes could apply? Like, let's say there's a tenant in that owner-occupied home. Well, it would help both the owner and the tenant. So a lot of programs that came out from the federal, the state, the county, and the city government didn't loop in those 1 to 2 family homeowners. A lot of people have been suffering. Those homeowners who are relying on those tenants to pay half the mortgage are essentially up the creek without a paddle. That is why this program was specifically targeted to help those individuals. So those individuals that were denied, we just expanded this program, by the way, to allow those 800 other individuals. But we wanted to make sure that we were helping both the tenant and the landlord. And now what we didn't want was for a multi-unit building to tell all their tenants, come get, you know, this aid money before we could help those 1 to 2 family homeowners. That was the issue. And a lot of homeowners were crying to City Hall, to every level of government to do something about it. And we did. So, and we have expanded that program to allow those 800 people to get the assistance. But first, we wanted those homeowners.
No, the mom and pop.
Exactly. Thank you.
By the way, that second stage of the rental assistance program begins October 14th, and I think it runs through October the 18th. So go to the city website, apply for it now. That second phase is beginning. Danielle, rent control. There's talk, this is always kicking around City Hall, about putting rent control into 2, 3, and 4 family homes. How do you feel about that, Danielle?
Well, I think that we need to make sure that we support a long-standing partnership between tenants and landlords. And so I would be a proponent of a tenant bill of rights, for example, so that both tenants and landlords can understand what are the basic requirements that they need in order to have a strong and healthy relationship. In terms of rent-controlled apartments, if I'm not mistaken, there was a lot of people who didn't know that they were in rent-controlled apartments. And so we need to make sure that we're supporting those people that are in those homes and highlighting what rights they have. And if they are in rent-controlled apartments, we need to support them.
Okay. Yousef?
I wouldn't support rent control for two-family homes. Obviously, they're just trying to get by, just like everybody else. I do agree with the tenant bill of rights so that landlords don't run a roughshod over those tenants. There are a lot of unscrupulous landlords that I've had to deal with in my time as councilman who don't take the necessary steps to make repairs, that leave their units, the tenants' units in disrepair with lead, with mold, with mice. And we've had to bring in the Quality of Life Task Force, which is under the Public Safety Administration now, and we have been cracking down on them. But we do need a strong tenant bill of rights. I don't agree that it should be that, touch the two-family homeowners.
Well, I agree. The 2, 3, 4 family, they should be exempt from that because that's mostly your mom and pop, the young couple that just got married. They're hoping those rents pay it. Let's get away from the housing for a minute. Bike lanes in Ward D. I don't know where you could put bike lanes. You're not putting them on Central. You're not putting them on Summit. They're very narrow streets. This section of Jersey City was developed long ago when there were horses kicking around on Central Avenue. Are you in favor of putting bike lanes all through Jersey City? And is bikes a practical mode of transportation? Daily mode of transportation? Yousef.
Thank you for that question, Pat. I think that bikes are a viable mode of transportation in certain weather conditions, and also if the city is available, if the city makes it so that there's less friction between, let's say, the biker and the pedestrian and also the driver. Right now, we have a large disconnected, well, the Heights is, I'm not going to say all of Jersey City, because Jersey City actually has a really good bike program across all of it. We're trying to connect, let's say, downtown and Journal Square to the Heights. So what have we done? We've started a study for Summit Avenue. We've had a lot of accidents on Summit Avenue. It's like T-Bone Alley. Anytime you see those white poles, those are called delineators. Those are because there's probably been an accident there or multiple accidents. People have gotten hurt. I would like to see what the results of the study are to make it either one way, going towards Journal Square, possibility of a bike lane. I think that we need to make it easier for folks if we are going to use bikes. Cars are here to stay, but if we make public transport easier, we have the VIA service, which has 6,000 residents in the Heights have used it already. So once you make that mass transit available, like those, that VIA has been very popular. Over 200,000 rides have happened.
Oh no, VIA's been very successful.
Yeah.
And it's 365, 24/7, 365, unlike bikes. Danielle,
Question about bike lanes.
should we have bike lanes in the Heights? And are bikes a practical 365 mode of transportation?
Absolutely. I think we need to support pedestrian safety, which would mean creating bike lanes. As I mentioned before, we need to think about the long-term vision of the Heights and what kind of community we want to be. That means we need to diversify the type of transportation that is available to us. And if that includes bike lanes, and that includes bike lanes, we need to prioritize the different modes of transportation. Like I mentioned, we're in a climate crisis. We need to go towards more sustainable options. And this is something that a lot of people have voiced that they support.
Well, to stay consistent, because I did the Ward C debate, you're not going to ride a bike when it's raining out. You're not going to ride a bike when it's snowing and you got 4 inches of snow on the ground. You're not going to ride a bike when it's cold. You're not going to ride a bike when it's super hot. So is it really a practical mode of transportation that we should invest so much money in the infrastructure?
It's an option, and if we want to invest in an environmentally sustainable Jersey City, absolutely.
Okay. Next question. Low-hanging fruit. Suez water. We recently had a situation with Ida where there was an aqueduct broke in the Booton Reservoir. And again, that's not Suez's fault. The aqueduct broke when the storm, it broke. We had contaminated water for 3 or 4 days, and Suez wasn't exactly water on the spot for the people in the Heights or throughout Jersey City. What's your opinion of Suez, Yousef?
My opinion of Suez is that they had one job, it's to deliver water. They didn't have a contingency plan, and if you saw, I grilled them when they came before the city council, okay? And if you have one job and that job is to deliver water and you're not able to deliver water because it's contaminated, then you failed at that one job. And there needs to be accountability, which is why I co-sponsored the bill for the resolution for the ad hoc committee to look into Suez, whether or not we need to change the provider or the facilitator. So I don't have a favorable opinion of them. What they did was they said that they had contracts for water, like bottled water, and they really didn't, and then they delivered it really late. So then I actually had to call other council members to ask them to supply water to the Heights. So we started to get some from across the city. We got the 2 water buffaloes, but that really isn't enough to help the residents of the Heights. I was there, I helped people buy water, I bought water for them. We had a situation, that was by far from the level of competency that's needed to service over nearly 300,000 residents.
Danielle? Suez water, what do you think of them?
Well, I think we need to invest in, infrastructure to make sure that we have quality services. We need better oversight of the type of vendors and services that are provided to Jersey City. We can do that through having an independent voice, someone that can really hold services accountable and not try to defend or support whatever services is available. When it comes to not having water, it's really just a shame that in Ward D, where we have property values that are skyrocketing and we don't have clean water. It's a shame. And so what we need is to make sure that we're holding our administration accountable so that we can have better quality services. And so far, that hasn't happened.
Well, normally we have very good water, Jersey City. We have a very good reservoir up there. Normally our water is pretty clean. Yousef, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, I mean, the whole city council is unanimously behind this. It's not about independent or non-independent. I think independently, okay? I make the decisions that are best for the Heights at the end of the day. And guess what? When it came to Suez, everyone and their mother was in agreement that Suez needs to be held accountable. And we sat at the table like a council does, and we agreed, and we're going to set up that ad hoc committee.
Well, it isn't a lot to look into Suez. You can talk to every municipality that deals with Suez. Go talk to Bayonne. They made the deal with the devil because they had a $130 million budget hole. They brought in Suez. The devil deals are hard. You want to say something, Danielle?
Sure. We need to have independent voices on City Council. Our representative right now in the Heights does not think independently. He needs to ask for permission for everything he does. This is the type of leadership or lack of leadership we have in the Heights. We need to restore the independent voice that we can hold an administration accountable instead of boasting about what happens during election year. Whether it's Central Avenue repavements, a reservoir, a ribbon cutting at a park, which now still has some renovations that need to be fixed. We need to wake up and see that we need an independent voice, and the person that we have on City Council right now representing the Heights is not thinking independently. He cannot think independently. He has to ask for permission.
I know you want to go. Go ahead.
I just can't help but laugh at the fact that she thinks I called Mayor Stephen Fulop to ask for permission to basically unanimously agree with the rest of the city council against what Suez did, which was not provide water to the residents of the Heights. So I don't understand how being independent, what decision would you have made differently than I would when it came to questioning Suez? What, as an independent, would you have done differently than I did?
Danielle?
Alleged independent, continue.
I'm talking about in general. We need someone that is pushing back, and we don't have someone that is pushing back right now.
I think,
Danielle, should you want to rebut again, or should we just, I'm saying on Suez here, should we take over the water department? Years ago, until Mayor Brett Schindler, again, there was a budget hole, so we brought in United Water at that time. Actually, I don't even think it was United Water at that time. Back in, I think, 98, and that's how we developed the MUA, and we made the deal with Suez. Should we go back to doing the water ourselves, as we did for 150 some odd years before Brett Schindler decided to privatize it? Danielle?
Sure, I think it could be an option so long as that we have quality services. As you know, we had a hidden water tax fee that hit the most vulnerable families across Jersey City. So we need more people to hold these services accountable, and right now it hasn't happened. When it came to a press conference in regards to the water tax fee and the fact that families were getting hit hard with a high bill, where was our representative? He wasn't there. So when you talk about independent voice, you need someone that is standing up for our families and for our communities, and he cannot show up because he needs to ask for permission.
I don't know what, I feel like you're dancing around the bush here. Like it went from Suez down to the water tax, and those are two completely separate issues that they deal with two different agencies. There's one that's the MUA, and then there's one that's Suez, okay? So Suez, you haven't really explained how you would have handled it differently than set up the ad hoc committee, which we are going to get answers regarding why Suez couldn't live up to its contractual obligations, okay? And the whole city council was united in that. When it came to the water tax, which is completely unrelated to Hurricane Ida and Suez, I was against it. And it wasn't a tax, it was a clause. It felt like a tax, it looked like a tax, and for all intensive purposes, it hurt like a tax. And I was against it. It was a clause within the regional industries contract. It said that the MUA could exercise this option. This was not discussed in the city council meeting. All that the city council was voting on was whether or not to extend garbage services for the duration, for the next 5 years. Because if we didn't vote on it that day, we wouldn't have had garbage picked up the next week. That's what we were faced with. And guess what? We are setting up a committee to look to house the garbage services, the collection services within Jersey City.
We're going to talk about that after the intermission. It's in the cards.
We need to stay on topic here.
All right. Well,
Thank you.
we're going to break topic because we're going to break for intermission. Okay. All right. You're watching the Ward C debate. We're going to take an 8-minute intermission. We'll be right back.
Stevens Jersey City Ford, located right off of NJ 440 North. Across the Hudson Mall is your one-stop for all your automotive needs. Check out Ford's latest models like the 2020 Ford Fusion with its stylish looks and hybrid options, or the unparalleled high-performance 2020 Ford Mustang. The 2020 Ford F-150 Raptor is ready for those rugged off-road terrains with trail control. Need a mid-sized truck for your towing and hauling? The 2020 Ford Ranger will deliver. The 2020 Ford Escape is a luxury SUV that was made for comfort and adventure on the go. Returning is Ford's legendary Bronco, which takes you back to the true meaning of off-roading. They are now available for pre-order in our showroom or on our website. Let us help you find your next vehicle. Stevens Jersey City Ford, 201-432-7272.
Ford made their first all-electric SUV a Mustang. Rapid acceleration, reactive handling, 300-mile range. You control how it feels and how it sounds. It knows you. It dials into your preferred settings. It has an array of driver assist technology. Cameras and sensors enhance your awareness and provide you with additional control. But it's more than cutting-edge technology. It's the spirit of it. It's a Mustang.
Introducing the all-new Ford Maverick. A truck for people who do stuff. And people who make stuff. People like Gabrielle Union.
I make this look good, don't I?
Who haul whatever they want to wherever they want. Like wood to build things made of wood with. And friends to get weird with. It's for long trips that the standard hybrid engine with a targeted EPA estimated city fuel economy rating of 40 miles per gallon helps with. That an 8-inch touchscreen connects with. And any trip that this interior makes more comfortable. But we'll let Gabrielle tell you all about it
Or I could just tell them it's a Ford truck that starts at less than $20,000 MSRP.
Yep, that works too. The all-new Ford Maverick, built to defy expectations. Truck isn't just a brand new truck when it's tough enough to have best-in-class available payload and smart enough to know that a cab can also be an office. A truck equipped with best-in-class available towing that asks, why can't all that power more than just this truck? No, your brand new truck isn't just a brand new truck when it's the all-new F-150. Tough this smart can only be called F-150.
Oh, ready? Here we go. We're back. Ward C debate, Pat O'Melia. I'm not getting good signs from my personnel over there. We're live here from the studio in North Bergen. Again, it's the Ward C debate. I'm Pat O'Melia, the host of the City Show. We have the very independent Danielle and Councilman Yousef. You guys were mixing up pretty good over the water tax. Really, it's a trash tax. It wasn't really the water tax. But let's stay with that. We have a trash pickup issue in Jersey City, particularly in the Heights, because there's some hills in the Heights, and these guys don't stop to pick up the garbage. We're paying, I think, this year, $15.2 million to Regional to do the trash and recycling, and we're paying another 12 to 14 million in tipping dumping fees. We're not getting our money's worth from Regional in that. They leave more garbage than they pick up. Yousef, what are we going to do going forward? And you got another 4 years on this contract. And there was only one bid, so we didn't have a lot of options. Where are we going?
Within that contract, well, thank you for asking me that question, Pat. I agree. Regional has done a horrible job basically picking up trash, which shouldn't be that hard to do, but they leave at least half of the trash in the street, and then they might throw out the other half. I can't tell you how many residents have called me after Hurricane Ida. They were supposed to pick up all the items, all the bulk items, and we had to send in city trash dumpsters to come and pick up their trash. So this area directly impacts me as a councilman and my effectiveness. Okay, so what we have proposed is to put a committee together to look at bringing those services in-house. What does that mean? We're going to employ people within the city to pick up that trash. There's going to be a higher cost when it comes to acquiring capital equipment, aka the dumpsters. You're going to have costs for pensions. You're going to have some salary, cost for salaries. But in the long run, it will save the city $5 million. At least I think so. The study still has to happen, and that's why the committee is being put together to look into this. If you look at cities like Patterson, okay, they have an in-house system. It doesn't work too well, but maybe we could look at where they're lacking and sort of change that for Jersey City. I had proposed changing the contract, the RFP, into 6 different RFPs. So basically, you'd have one smaller garbage company. The problem right now is Regional's the only game in town. They're the only company large enough to pick up the trash for our 300,000 residents. Okay, so I said break up the RFP, the request for proposal, into 6 different wards, and then you have smaller companies do that. It would require project managers. I still think we should look into this as well. So there are a variety of options, and we owe it to the residents of this city to pursue them.
Well, your numbers are right, because I actually ran those numbers, and we would be saving about $5 million a year. We would have to go out and buy 28 32 cubic yard garbage trucks. We'd have a crew of about 110 people. It can be done, but there's a lot involved getting that done. Danielle, what should we do? Should we take it in-house? And how do we deal with the trash problem we have?
Well, it's good to know that the councilman is responding to residents' calls to begin with, so that's really helpful to hear. In regards to the trash on the streets, it is really despicable. We have filthy streets everywhere we go, and if Regional Industry is the only bid in town, how can we hold them accountable and make sure that they're providing quality services? I keep saying the same thing because it's about leadership that is actually pushing these vendors to do a good job. And so that is something that I would fight for as an independent council person, and I want to make sure that if there's an option to bring it in-house, sure, I do agree with providing more jobs so that we can have more people on the streets cleaning the streets. But as far as what we have right now, we just need leadership that is pushing these vendors to do the right thing.
Well, I agree with what the administration is trying to do. They're going to look into bringing it in-house, and that's the right thing to do. Speaking of streets, now, we probably paved more streets in the Heights than most of the wards. I think you said that. Right after we pave our streets, somebody comes by and opens them up for a water meter. PS&G does it. Joe Frank's Plumbing does it. And then they do a horrible job of backfilling these. And that creates sinkholes and potholes. Danielle, as the Ward D council person, what would you do to prevent that from them ripping up your freshly paved streets and doing a bad job filling the hole?
Can you repeat the question?
What happens in Jersey City, especially in the Heights, after we repave a street, almost immediately somebody comes by with paint and marks out where they're going to rip up our new pavement, put a water meter in there, or pump, fix something, whatever they're doing, and they do it constantly in the Heights. Then they fill it back in, and they do a terrible job. And that's where you get these potholes. They're not really potholes, they're just bad backfills. How do you prevent that? Because it's a scourge all through the Heights.
Yeah, no, that's a good question. In terms of that, I mean, the first thing that comes to mind when it comes to our streets is that we don't have enough permeable spaces. So when rainwater comes, it hits the streets, and then we get the flooding that we saw with Ida. In regards to these potholes, I don't have the answer to that. I'm not quite sure what we can do to prevent it, but I would be willing to talk to the community and talk to the right people so that we can get a solution. So
Yousef, you got a handle on that?
Yeah, we have a current existing contractual agreement between the city and PSE&G. We notify them when we're going to pave a road, and they're supposed to do their improvements before we pave that road. That's what we did with the Central Avenue streetscape, if you saw, and we had PSE&G do all of Central Avenue first before we did any paving. We just did the paving, by the way, like a few weeks ago.
Yeah, just finish the project.
So
Well, almost finished.
what happens if they break that agreement? They have to repave that road. And that's the agreement we have with PSE&G. Now, when it comes to the water, I agree. It's very difficult because let's say a pipe bursts or you're trying to switch out a water line for a house. You can't control those things as, a council person, or the city can't control it. If something needs to be changed out, you have to change it out. And it will, it is very disappointing, and it's going to happen. Okay, the best we can do is provide notice to residents, for the things that are planned. If you have a planned project, this is where the communication piece comes in. You let the residents know we're going to pave your street. And I think we should be doing that more often.
But what do you do about the bad backfill? When that plumber comes by and he opened up our street and he put a meter in, then he does a bad job filling it back in. It looks good for about a week or so, and then we have a problem. What do we do there? Because first off, they're supposed to go curb to curb, not patch repair it. And they're not doing that. They don't do it anywhere in the Heights.
I think you bring up a very valid concern because it breaks my heart to see a newly, freshly paved road really torn asunder by these individuals. And if they don't patch it up properly, I think they should be held liable, that they should send a contractor out or have us contract it out, and then they would have to reimburse us for it so that it's done properly.
Well, we need to supervise those backfills. I've called you before when it happened recently on Waverly Street. We just did Waverly, recently paved that. And I got out of the car and said, no, you're not digging up this. And I called you and I called Mayor Fulop. Speaking of working on our streets, what do we do about anybody and his brother who closes the street? Before, we used to have the cops that closed the street. Now, it's like anybody closes the street. We close the street if there's some sheetrock being delivered, there's some wood being delivered, there's someone delivering a pizza. We'll close the street. Handmade sign, street closed. How do we control that? Because it makes it hard to get around the Heights. Danielle.
How do we control stopping people from closing the streets on their own?
On their own. Contractor comes in, puts his own sign up, street closed. I'm
not sure. I don't have an answer to that.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine. You're new at this. Yousef, it happens all the time in the Heights. How can we prevent this?
We need to give the residents the information to empower themselves, to call, resident response center, which is what we do, okay? When we tell residents, you gotta call resident response center, and then we'll be able to triage that concern and make sure that they aren't closing the street. They aren't allowed to do that. And when it comes to street closures in general, I think we need to bring the city to the 21st century and have a map within, like, let's say the whole city, and the parking authority would be able to help with this because they would have like the signs for the street closure, like you have to put the street closure signs up. So you'd be able to tell on this live map every day where the street closures are going to be.
Well, that'd be a good idea. So you can get around the Heights, because just today, just going to the bank, there were 3 streets were closed, and there wasn't a cop there, and there wasn't a parking authority there. They just a makeshift. One was just spray painted, street closed. Speaking of the parking authority, well, actually now it's the Jersey City Parking Enforcement. Yousef, are they going to stay on Central Avenue?
No. I don't believe they will stay in their current state. We're going to leave a satellite office on the ground floor, okay? We're going to digitize a lot of the permitting process, and we're going to move the parking authority to the 21st century. They are going to move, okay? And we're putting the senior center where they currently are. And
On
we're
the
gonna
second
put,
floor.
Absolutely. And we're going to put the Hispanic library, which is currently downtown in a basement. No one knows where it is. We're going to move that where it belongs, which is prominently in the Heights. And that is the parking authority, you know, right now, I think needs better enforcement when it comes to all the parking in the Heights.
Well, they give me enough tickets. Danielle, should the parking authority or parking enforcement stay on Central Avenue? Or should they move to the annex out on MLK Drive? Or the public safety building, right? Public safety building on MLK Drive.
Yeah, well, I want to return to the comment about empowering our residents. I don't think that right now our residents feel empowered to be a part of this political process, to feel that they can be heard from their current council member. And so that's something that is really important to me, to make sure that we're educating our community on what resources are available to them and how to contact the city and how to be held accountable if you don't get a response. In regards to the parking authority, whether they should be in an I don't have an answer to that. I don't.
Let me give you one.
Can I?
There's no business on Central Avenue that generates as much foot traffic as parking enforcement. Maybe the post office, that's it. We permit parking department off the avenue, you're hurting every business on Central Avenue. Because that parking permit department generates a tremendous amount. I was just there today picking up my permit. A lot of people there. Yousef, go ahead.
First, I want to address how she said residents aren't empowering themselves in the Heights. 6,399 residents empowered themselves to vote for me last year, November 2020. Okay, that's more than any other election in Heights or Jersey City history. Additionally, 1,700 residents empowered themselves to sign my petition to get on the ballot. In fact, Danielle empowered herself to sign my petition last year in August of 2020, okay? And I give every resident my personal number because I want to build a relationship with every resident. I want them to have direct contact with me. And we and my team, my council aides, Barbara D'Amato and Brittany Bunny, and myself, we work tirelessly for the residents of the Heights to make sure that they get fast, responsive, and easy access to us.
Danielle?
The ego is potent in elected leadership in Jersey City. Who cares about these 6,000 votes for someone who is on the mayor's slate? Of course you got that many number of votes. You have a whole backing from the administration. And when you talk about your team, let's talk about who's on your team. You had your former aide, David Cruz, try to intimidate me, and it did not work. So what we need to talk about is how are we empowering new people to enter the political arena? Because right now, what is happening is a lot of toxic behavior, a lot of pushing out, and we're not enabling more people to enter the political process. And if people don't know, David Cruz is on the city's planning board. It is not right that we have this type of environment that is fostering toxicity and bullying. It is not okay. So please, enough with the ego. We need real representation, someone who is speaking for the people.
Those 6,400 residents that you disregard are your neighbors. They're people that work and live and breathe in the Heights, okay? And that cannot be, you can't just throw that to the wayside. I campaigned in a pandemic, mind you, without a vaccine, to push the Heights forward, to make sure that residents had testing, that tenants had assistance, that businesses could survive. And that was the result of what we did. And we're gonna continue to do that. We're gonna continue to push these projects forward because these projects, they didn't just start under my watch. They were the brainchild of Michael Youn, and I wanna continue his legacy. I want to continue working on the work of that independent council person. I think independently for myself, okay? When it comes to the budget, I abstained last year. When it comes to the Exchange Place Alliance, I voted against their project, okay? So there are plenty of instances where I have voted with the independents on the council, okay? When it comes to their proposals. There's very little that differentiates me from anyone else. And I think independently, I do what's best for my residents in the Heights at the end of the day.
That's a buzzword for this debate, independent. All right, future is Central Avenue. What is it? We don't have a name brand. I was excited when I heard about Trader Joe's possibly coming into that 360, I think it was 360, 358 development for the guy at the Kennedy department store. We need name brand businesses on Central Avenue. Central Avenue, like you said, there's a bunch of empty stores. But you go further into North Hudson and Bergen Line Avenue, whole different game. When you go through Jersey, Union City into North Bergen, that shopping district is flourishing. There's a problem on Central. Danielle, how do you fix it?
Well, when you say we need more name brand businesses, let's ask the community in the Heights. I would like to hear from the community whether we all want name brand businesses on Central Avenue. We have thriving small businesses all along Central Avenue, and it is our duty to support them and make sure that people are visiting and make sure that they're benefiting and exchanging resources. One thing that is really important for me is, like I mentioned, we're thinking about the future of the Heights. How can we partner with local businesses to make sure that they're more environmentally sustainable? What resources can we provide to businesses so that they can change the way that they're doing their business that is more in a direction of environmental sustainability? What about accessibility for people with disabilities, about the first step that people have to step through for when they walk into a store? That is not accessible for all people here in the Heights, and we need to make sure that we're helping and partnering our local businesses to think about the future and make sure that every single resident can enjoy their business.
Yousef, how do we improve Central Avenue?
I think what you're seeing now is a part of the project to improve Central Avenue. That's the $5 million that we invested in Central Avenue. There's obviously things that we could do better. Environmental sustainability is one of them. However, we have planted over 500 trees, not on Central Avenue, but we've planted over 500 trees across Jersey City. We actually added trees to the streetscape, okay? And when we did the streetscape, the last streetscape project was 30 years ago. So we had to upgrade with a lot of the new laws that came about. Let's say there's like a bus stop or there's a tree near it, we had to remove it, and then we had to find a way to put it somewhere else. So we've been trying to improve the sustainability feature on Central Avenue. Because of this streetscape project, we will attract more businesses to the Heights, more mom and pop shops, and maybe even a Trader Joe's. I would leave that to the community, obviously, to decide.
Well, you need an anchor business there to attract people, and that would, of course, help the smaller businesses there. That's why I was excited about the Trader Joe's. All right, next question. Returning municipal elections back to May. If I'm not mistaken, I think this is the last full cycle in our November setup. We can change it every 10 years. Are you in favor of bringing back the municipal election to May? Yousef?
Honestly, it doesn't matter what time of year, we're out there hitting the pavement. We will have to get our message out to the residents, you know, and part of running for office is to make sure that your message resonates with the people. So if you're doing your job, that message is going to resonate and you will get the votes no matter what. So whether it's the fall or winter or whether it's the spring / summer, you know, I campaign in any kind of weather. So.
Okay, Danielle, should we keep our elections in November municipally or bring it back to May?
I would have to agree. It really, for me, I don't know what the argument is with what one time versus the other.
Well, when we had it in May, the whole focus was on the municipal election. When you moved to November, you got the governor, you got the state senators, you got the assembly, you got so much more involved. When in May, it was Jersey City front. It was all politics are local, and it was a local election. Yousef.
I'll make a financial case for this. Essentially, you know, if we keep it in November for the voters at home, we save money as a city because then we won't have to have our separate election Right now, we piggyback with the state, which saves us a lot of money, millions of dollars, and we put our ballot on the bottom of the state ballot. So that was a cost-saving measure that the city did. If we wanted to bring it back to May, I honestly think that there would be a financial burden that the city would have to incur, and we'd really have to make a compelling case for it.
I debate the issue if it's really a financial. We're talking about Central Avenue. We have what would pass for right now one supermarket on Central, an old, obsolete Stop and Shop. That building's been the same since 1940. You got Supremo, another old one, down on Palisades. We lost Seatown. That's now an apartment building. Do you think we need another supermarket on Central? Because you're on the northern end of Central. You got a long way to go, man, to go shopping. What do you do?
Is that for me or Danielle?
Danielle, I'll let her go with it.
Okay.
Sure, we need quality services when it comes to getting the food that we need. Stop and Shop is my home supermarket. I've been going there since I was little, and it transitioned into a whole bunch of names. It was the same building. So yeah, sure, we need another supermarket.
Well, how do we go about getting one?
How do we go about getting another supermarket?
How would you try to attract one to Central?
I'm not sure.
Yousef, same question.
So right now, as you know, we have Stop and Shop. I live a block away from Stop and Shop, and I shop there. It doesn't have everything we need, and as you know, we need to have fresh food for residents. Okay, we need to have vegetables. A lot of people live in food deserts, and we're close to a food desert, if you ask me.
Pretty much we are, yeah.
With the lack of a supermarket. If we wanted to bring a supermarket in, and we would have to see what property was available. We'd have to put out an RFP for, like let's say it was city property, we'd have to put out the RFP, the request for proposal, to see what developers might come in and say like, hey, we would like to build a supermarket here. As far as that, the free hand of the marketplace would dictate, let's say, someone bought a few properties and said, hey, I'd like to build a supermarket.
Maybe
That's
put a
another
Trader
way.
Joe's.
My sisters, I have 7 sisters, for those at home, they all go to Trader Joe's. They love Trader Joe's. So they only...
I would take a ShopRite, an Acme, don't have to be Trader Joe's. Trader Joe's a little pricey, but anything, because you just got Stop and Shop down there. How about more services from the county of Hudson? We pay county taxes. Danielle, what services would you like to see increased or maybe even picked up by the county of Hudson?
I would want to see more social services, like mental health services, like immigration services, supporting nonprofits here in the city. Those are the types of services that I would support, because it thinks about our long-term goal in the community. We need to think about prevention, and so a lot of nonprofit organizations work towards those social issues that are impacting our most disenfranchised communities, and so I would work with the county to improve and strengthen those types of quality social services.
Yousef.
I think definitely agree on the quality of life issues, making sure there's mental health help, that homelessness is an issue that they can tackle, because Jersey City does have a large homeless population that needs to be taken care of. Providing food, shelter, stipends. Also, if a drug rehabilitation center, I think, is something that the county should do. So helping struggling addicts, giving them the information and resources that they need. There is a drug problem, across the city, and if we give people the opportunity to better their lives, I think that's a great county resource. Furthermore, I think they need to improve our roads. So we need to ask of them, those county roads like JFK and Secaucus Road, they're going to have to really do a lot better for us when it comes to bringing the sheriffs out there to enforce traffic. That's what I would like to see. Changing the timing of the speed lights on JFK so that the drivers aren't incentivized to speed. I'd also like to see more green infrastructure along JFK so that the county needs to install that and make it safe. Because right now, it's like the Indy 500.
I'd like to meet the guy that times those lights on JFK Boulevard too. All right, we're running out of time. Danielle, would you like to ask the question of Yousef?
Sure. Councilman Saleh, why haven't you done anything to support more affordable units in the Heights?
Do you want me to direct it to?
Yeah, you can look at it. That's
Okay.
fine.
I did, and I advocated on that committee. Okay, I read the book, The Price of Paradise, by a Rutgers law professor. I went to Rutgers Law, and essentially, it said that even marginal improvements were better than doing nothing at all. That's why I voted for that inclusionary zoning ordinance, because something was better than nothing. And as you know, policy is iterative. You cannot build Rome in a day. The Social Security didn't have protections for disabled individuals when it came out. And I advocated for no buyouts, okay? I advocated for no givebacks. I advocated for 99-year affordability, because that is what would have improved the Heights, okay? And the fact is, I have to work with the rest of the council, because they have other projects. Like I said, the Heights is the least dense ward, and we need to find creative solutions to this affordable housing problem. I voted for it because we need something better than nothing, and we can build on it in the future, okay?
Yousef, would you like to ask a question of Danielle?
Absolutely.
Good.
Why didn't you, Danielle, last year when Councilman Michael Yoon passed away, you know, there were a lot of people that stepped up to say they want to serve their community. Last year, you know, a lot of people stepped up to run for Ward D. Why didn't you put your name in the hat to be considered by the city council? And why didn't you think about running for office? And then why did you decide to run a few months after I was elected? And why did you sign my petition?
Okay, that's a lot of, why did you?
There's a lot of why issues, yes.
Why didn't you, for, you know, putting your name in consideration for the city council? Why didn't you run? And then, you know, why did you end up
Yeah.
All right, let me make
Definitely.
one announcement. We're probably going to lose Comcast Channel 190 as time runs out, but we will continue on YouTube, Facebook, live stream, and Twitter. Danielle?
So it doesn't matter when you make a decision to run to represent your community. For me, I made the decision at the end of last year, having seen the year that we had, which was a year of reckoning, seeing all of the institutions that are available to us that were hoarding resources, seeing communities that were neglected when it came to the pandemic. So 2020, the entire year, was a reflection for me about how I can participate in my community. So really, it wasn't my time to put in my hat in the ring. And it was my personal choice to make this decision at the end of the year and make my start of my campaign at the beginning of the year. In terms of signing your petition, sure, I signed your petition. I supported you. I remember telling you, please don't be a puppet to Mayor Fulop. Please try to differentiate yourself. Please be an independent leader. I told you that when you were in front of my parents' home. You know this. So yes, of course I had faith in you. And then I saw how everything and how all the cards fell, and I decided to make this decision, and I'm very proud of it. I'm very proud that we have more options here in the Heights.
All right. Your closing statements? Danielle, you want to go first?
Sure. So we are living through an affordability crisis, a climate crisis, and our representatives are absent. And as the saying goes, if you're not at the table, you're most likely on the menu. That's why I'm running, so that we can have an independent voice at the decision-making table. This campaign has been able to activate so many members of the community in this election process. This campaign is inspired by artists, by women, by the work of the community, for the community, and by the community. If elected, I will be the first women representative and women of color to represent the Heights. I'm Danielle Freire, and I humbly ask for your vote. Please vote 1C for the Heights. Find out where to vote at daniellefreirejc.com. Thank you.
Yousef.
Thank you, Pat. Thank you, Danielle. It's been a pleasure to speak about these issues with you today. And thank you to the viewers at home, the residents of Jersey City Heights and Jersey City. It's been an honor to serve as your councilman. You heard a lot today about me being an independent, and essentially, I have voted my conscience every single time. The only time the mayor has actually ever called me is because I was arguing on Facebook when I first became a councilman. He said, you have to have decorum, you can't do what you used to do, okay? And he gave me that tip. And I have maintained that level of respect for whether it's a challenger, whether it's someone that dislikes me. We serve the Heights. My council aides, Barbara Stamato and Brittany Bunny, and myself, we answer the call 24/7, 365 through these unprecedented times. I put my hat in the ring because my community needed me. I'm a son of the Heights, a product of the Heights. I went to the public schools from Head Start through law school, okay? We're supporting the schools. We gave $200 million to the public school system in the last 4 years using the payroll tax. And we're looking at other ways to generate revenue. We have repaved 6.3 miles of road in the Heights. We have all these projects. And yes, we can be better. We can have that green infrastructure. We can have more safety improvements. We can have the Heights community that we deserve. And how do we do that? We do that together. Everything in my campaign is community driven. Whether it's the stop sign that you see on Franklin Ave and Cambridge Ave and Hancock Ave, like that's community driven. I get a call, I act. That's what I have done as your councilman these last 17 months. And it is my hope that when you go and vote November 2nd, that you will vote 5C for Yousef J. Saleh. It has been the honor of my life to serve, and I hope you will let me continue.
Thank you, Yousef. Well, that wraps up the Ward C debate. I didn't get to ask why there's no roof on the gazebo in
Pat,
Mosquito
this is
Park.
Ward D debate.
What's that?
It's Ward
What did
D.
I say? C?
C.
Oh, Ward D. That's right. Like I said, I didn't get to ask why there's no roof on the gazebo in Mosquito Park. Yes, I know it's Lennon Gordon Park. Hopefully, we've informed you, we've educated you a bit, and you can make that informed vote on November 2nd. Remember, early voting begins on October the 23rd. You can go to the voting booth on November 2nd, like I will, and you have two great choices here. You got Danielle and Yousef. I'll be voting for one of them. Hopefully you will also. Good night. Take care. Good night.